Morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's Regen and Housing meeting. We're not expecting a fire alarm or fire drill, so if it does sound, please make your way to the nearest exit, and the meeting point is in Gresley Square. Can I ask colleagues also to put the mobile phones onto silent, if not done so already? And there's no public in attendance, is there, this morning, Chris? No. Have we had any apologies? Thank you, Chris. And are there any declarations of interest? No? Agenda item 4, the minutes of the meeting which we held on the 8th of July. Is it agreed that they're a correct record of the minutes?
Agreed.
Thank you. There's no public statements as there's no members of the public. And we'll move on to agenda item 6, which is an update on businesses in Doncaster. And I'll ask Chris Dungworth to come in and give us an overview on that. Thank you, Chris.
Morning, Chair. Yes, I'm Chris Dungworth, current Head of Service for Business Doncaster, the Economic Development Regeneration team for Doncaster Council. I've got with me today Alex Dockery, who is our Investment Team Manager, who looks after the inward investment and business support. I've also got Lorna Reeve, who's our Destination Marketing Manager, looks after the marketing of both the business and tourism teams. Sandra Edwards, who is our Employment and Enterprise Manager, should be with us today, but unfortunately she's off sick at the moment, so she can't be with us. What I will do, we have submitted a report to yourselves. I'll just go a quick run through the report. I'm not going to go through the report in detail because I prefer you to ask questions. You've all seen the report. So it's just a report outlining some of the current work of Business Doncaster, where we're up to, what we're doing, and it's also providing information on the current state of the economy and some economic statistics which have been provided by our Policy and Insight and Change team. So as it stands, Business Doncaster, we're doing quite a lot of work at the moment around inward investment, around business support and business growth, and that is all documented in the report. Concentrating a lot of activity around sector growth, working with the PIC team and external partners on looking at our key employment sectors, and that's outlined in the report. We have done quite a lot of good work on the last year or so around attracting inward investment, and now our statistics which are in the report are very positive, and we can talk you through that within some of the questions. We've also provided in the report our work around the employment and enterprise strand of work, which is getting people into work, upskilling people who are already in work, and looking at how we support the unemployed and redundancies across Doncaster. All that is documented in the report. There's also information about how we're delivering a UK SPF programme of work around skills and employability when the strands are working there, and there's also work we're doing around the youth hubs in Mexborough and Doncaster. DWP were invited to this meeting to talk about their work around helping the unemployed back into work, but unfortunately they couldn't provide somebody to attend the meeting. So it is all documented, everything's in there about the work we're doing, so we're happy to take as many questions as you want to throw at us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Could you turn your microphone off, please? Thank you. We'll move on to the first question, and it's for the benefit of people who might be watching this meeting from YouTube as a recording. In the reports, we reference claimant on page 37. Can you just give us a breakdown on what that means as a term? Is it purely a benefit claimant, somebody who might be partly working and receiving benefits, or a combination? Thank you.
I can answer that question, Chair. So the definition is essentially people who are claiming job seekers allowance, plus those who are also claiming universal credit and are required to seek work and be available for work. So that's the definition of claimant.
So could it be a combination of people who are also working and claiming universal credit at the same time?
I'd have to go into the detail behind that, but I don't think it covers those who are in employment. I think it's just those who are basically unemployed, but then also seeking work as well.
Thank you. Yes, so people who are just purely claiming some kind of benefit, or that's fine. Move on to question 2, Councillor Cox.
Sorry, my computer's just decided to update itself. Do you need a paper copy? No, I'm fine. Thank you. We see that information can now be drilled down into street level. For example, our claimants, does this mean that we can now undertake more targeted support? If yes, is this something we're doing, and how successful is it?
So I can also answer this question, Councillor. So a lot of the data that we are utilising or are able to report on goes down to what is called a lower super output area. And these are generally speaking made up of a group of output areas, so usually about 4 or 5. So generally speaking, they're looking at comprising around 400 and, between 400 and 1,200 households. So it's not really street level, but it does give a bit of a micro kind of view of what's happening in particular wards. I mean, obviously, DWP, who are obviously a key government agency here, they might have more micro level data, which would obviously be useful to observe, interrogate. But just on the support question, there is a lot of support being provided through Business Doncaster and also public sector partners like Job Centre Plus and DWP. From a Business Doncaster point of view, our advanced team are very active out in communities, out on the ground, supporting people who are either unemployed, looking for work, or even those who might be made redundant, and also supporting young people into employment as well. A lot of their work is in hard-to-reach communities. They're very active in certain areas, especially in areas like Woodlands, Hexthorpe, Stainforth, areas that we know we have got stubborn issues regarding unemployment. And also their work around redundancy support is very valuable. Obviously, right now, we are in quite a tricky economic climate. We are seeing companies making redundancies, but thankfully, through the support of the team, we can help those people who are facing those risks find alternative employment. And there is quite a diverse range of employment available in Doncaster. So what the team looks to do is looks at their skill sets and looks at their transferable skills. And often people who have been in a certain sector or been in a job for a long amount of time, they might not see what transferable skills they have or how they can maybe go into other roles. So they help those people to explore their options, access new opportunities. And if they do need training and skills support, we can also provide that through our programmes as well. So a lot of the funding for that work is through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Previously, we were using European funding. Obviously, the future of that funding source remains uncertain for now, but the team are doing a lot of good work out in communities and out with residents, and that's a positive thing for Doncaster.
Thanks. I've just got a supplementary, Chair. I mean, and it goes back to some other stuff that we look at that impacts our deprived areas. Sorry, but that is the term that's used a lot for the work that you're looking at. When we've drilled down into figures for deprived areas and the impacts that it's having for things such as Doncaster, are you using that data? Because that data is obviously, when the questions were sent out for Doncaster, it seemed that there was the questions that were asked, there were no consistency over different areas of what's got what. That data is there for everybody to see. We found in areas in our ward that support is definitely needed and hasn't been there. It's now being there because we've raised the issues. Are you into the little pockets of deprivation, or are you just mainly concentrating on the big areas such as Stainforth, Woodlands, etc.?
It's all areas, and I know within the council there's a big focus around joining up areas of activity, so linking up economic development with community activity. Obviously, the Thrive model is hopefully something that everyone in the room's aware of, and there's a lot of work happening right now around how do we make sure that we're linking up Thrive with our economic development agenda, so that all people are able to benefit from the benefits of economic growth and regeneration, etc., really.
Within the Council's Finance and Performance Quarterly Report, there is a target for the performance indicator, which is the number of jobs. But thank you, Tom. Number of jobs within FTE. Go on, Tom.
Equivalent what?
FTE. I don't like it.
Full-time employment.
Yeah. Equivalent jobs created in the borough with a salary of over 31k. per year through Business Doncaster Inward Investment Prosperity and key activity average salary on from ONS,
Office of National Statistics.
which has been shown as red. What is being done to improve this target, and how long will it take for this performance indicator to meet this target?
And I can answer that one again, Councillor. So I know I mentioned before in my response to one of the previous questions and also in the report that we are experiencing quite a tricky economic climate at the moment, and none of that is new. That has been the case for quite some time, obviously with the pandemic and obviously various macroeconomic issues coming out of the pandemic as well. So I think in terms of what we see as the recent picture, we've seen a move from businesses to really safeguard jobs rather than create new jobs. However, obviously, in terms of our work, we are working really hard to attract new businesses to Doncaster, promoting the range of opportunities that we do have at our disposal. In the report, we highlighted 3 key investments that are on the horizon, one being TJM, which is Home Bargains, which will be building their regional distribution centre at the Unity development, which is obviously in the middle of Stainforth, Hatfield and Dunscroft. That development will be creating 1,000 new jobs from TJM. 300 of those will be pure engineering jobs because the distribution centre will be a fully automated unit. They're also building a live store and training centre as well. Hopefully councillors will be aware of Hybrid Air Vehicles, a company that we've been working with for quite a long time. And I think it's probably close to a decade, Chris, maybe?
Yes, at least, yeah.
They've announced, obviously, they're looking to manufacture their Airlander airship in Doncaster, looking to build their plant at Carcroft. That will be also 1,000 plus jobs. We're working with them around supply chain, around the future workforce needs. We've also helped them access finance through the Combined Authority. And more recently, we had the announcement from Holtec Britain, another investment that we helped bring to Doncaster, that they will be looking to manufacture small modular reactors for the nuclear energy industry here in Doncaster as well. And that will be, over the lifetime of their project, 3,000 jobs. And if they are successful in a government contract, because that's what they're competing for, that would be a £1.6 billion investment for Doncaster. So those are really big projects that are on the horizon. They all are long-term investments, and I guess that's the nature of inward investment. Some of this is long-term. It is about building relationships with companies, making sure that they are confident that Doncaster is the best place for them to invest. And also, you know, companies do have choices in terms of where they choose to invest as well. So often we're competing with other areas. So they're 3 big investments that are on the horizon. What I would say as well is that across Doncaster, we're in a really strong position to capitalise on any upsurge in economic activity. And I know that a lot of people are looking towards the budget at the end of this month around hopefully getting investment moving in the country, that sign of confidence to investors. So given the status of our key development sites and the property stock that we have available across Doncaster, I think we're in a really good position to attract more inward investment and support business growth as well. And not many areas are in that fortunate position, really.
Steve, can I add to that? That KPI was put in place. Doncaster had very low productivity, as you know, we're reliant on the logistics industry. We put that KPI in place specifically to address that issue and for Business Doncaster to change how we operate. So we much more work close to it, look at quality jobs around the new economic strategy and the Mayor's pledge to increase the better quality jobs. We put that KPI specifically in place and we are actively working towards that KPI. We also had a low product stock in Doncaster, which was reliant on the logistics industry. The last 2 years, and you'll see with our investment figures, we've seen a lot more product stock come onto the market, which is better for attracting the better quality business, such as manufacturing, engineering, and we have had some success. And Alex has just said, we have got a long-term ambition around manufacturing, engineering companies coming back to Doncaster. We've already seen, since we've announced the reopening of the airport, a number of inquiries coming forward for the airport site related to aircraft maintenance, aircraft overall, which is a better quality job. So we're in a good long-term position, but we have been reliant on logistics industry, which has driven our productivity around for quite a while. We're on an upward curve around that now.
With that in mind, Chris, how many are we going to look at getting 31k in wage? Because, I mean, when we just mentioned there about the DN7 investment stuff, I mean, we're really looking at big buildings, aren't we? In warehouse. A lot of buildings that have come up in and around airport are big buildings, warehouse. They're all big developments. A lot of investments again that you've said there in the nuclear stuff. Yeah, that can bring people in, but how many is it going to attract from the bits that come with it, and where are they going to be? Within local plan, it says stuff within our ward that it should be jobs near housing. We know that that's going to change because the part within our ward in that local plan has to change for it to move forward. How's that going to work within the business development? Because we're going to see some key places that the local plan's going to have to turn on its head to make it move. So how is that going to work moving forward with local plan and neighbourhood plans? But just finally, my colleague here, John, has mentioned a lot about investment that could have gone off in Carcroft, Woodlands, all down where hybrid air's going, which is absolutely fantastic. But why has there been also a concentration on around our ward, around airport, and not spreading it evenly about levelling up Doncaster? Because it's all seems to be in our side, and not a lot over other side. And there's places such as Asken, Woodlands that have just been left, and they need that support as well. And how are we pushing some businesses in that direction to level Doncaster up?
I think to add to that, a lot of that is determined by the private sector, because our key development sites have all been in the south of the borough around the M18 corridor, which is the airport, iPort, Unity, Hatfield and Thorn, Doncaster North at Thorn. We've not had any particular sites across the Carcroft area, etc., for a long time coming forward. The last one was Red House, which we feel very, very successful, unfortunately, quite a bit of logistics. We were very keen to, hybrid air vehicles could have gone to the airport. We were very keen not to take them to there, but take them somewhere else in the borough. Fortunately, Carcroft Common, because it's our land, we could control the fact that we could put them there and create the jobs there. It's all down to supply and demand, unfortunately, Steve, and that's where unfortunately, the development sites and the employment sites are on the south of the borough. And the last 10 years, we've been led by private sector developers who make money on logistics sheds, and that's why Doncaster's got down that way. We are trying to address it. We are trying to encourage developers to build smaller units. The units up at Thorn will be smaller type manufacturing units, and there's another development going to the airport which will be small type manufacturing units. We are trying to encourage that, but unfortunately the last 10 years we've been led by developers who've gone down the road of big sheds because it's made them money on sites they own and we can't control.
Thanks, Chris. I get that, obviously, because if that business is not coming in, it's not going to do anything, is it? It needs to come through the door first and ask a question. Now, we know that some of the returns that come from big sheds are generally bigger in tax revenue, let's say, than a smaller unit. But if they come to us and say, right, we want to buy like Pantone one, it's huge. If a developer comes in with an application for that, we as an authority can't really say, no, we don't want that, we want a smaller unit. Then they will go somewhere else. I mean, we've heard lots of stories of developers that don't really want to deal with Doncaster. They'd rather go to places like Retford and out that way because they feel a more empathetic council out there. But what are we doing with a developer that wants to come in and build a big shed? And are we saying, no, you can't, we'd prefer, but what we do know with planning is that we can only deal with what comes through the door as an application. We don't want to push them away. We want to help them because it's still a job, isn't it?
I'll let Alex talk to you about the work we're doing with the waste on up at Unity to attract that better quality type investment. But to a certain extent, you're right. The airport site now has got investment zone designation on it, which is all about manufacturing engineering. So people cannot benefit from the enterprise zone of the airport unless they're in that type of industry anyway. So that will make a change. But Alex will explain what we're doing with Unity and around encouraging developers to take up more of what we want rather than what they want to build.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, and thanks, Councillor, for the question. I think in terms of the way that Business Doncaster works, we work in a collaborative way with developers. So it's about kind of understanding, obviously, what they're looking to do when they show an interest in Doncaster, but also, from our point of view, talk about the council's vision, the council's ambition, and how we can work with them. So, I mean, obviously, we want to create a mixed economy in Doncaster, that kind of diversity of sectors that kind of contributes to our growth, that makes us resilient, but also helps us achieve some of the ambitions that we're setting up in terms of making us the best place to do business and create good quality jobs. So it's very much a collaborative approach. And also we're looking to, we go out and engage the market as well. So we go to things like UK Reef, which is a big property development expo in Leeds. I was in Leeds actually on Tuesday for a industrial logistics conference talking about Doncaster and our offer. And very much talking, we want to speak to people who are ambitious, who want to deliver a quality product, and we want to work with them really. And I think just on planning colleagues, I mean, obviously planning officers are stretched, and we know they're stretched up and down the country, but the view from the industry is that Doncaster is a really good council to work with. The planners are quite pragmatic, and they often take adopt a solutions focused approach to problems. So they very much kind of enable or find ways to make things work as opposed to kind of putting up barriers. So from a kind of development point of view, we have got a really good reputation, so developers do want to work with us. Obviously, what's in our advantage as well is land availability, which not many areas have. Obviously, the government have got a pro-growth agenda, as we know. They've got quite ambitious housing targets that we know as well. Obviously, right now that's out for consultation, but obviously, if the government do want to achieve the housing growth that they want to see, that will need to be matched by jobs growth as well. So exactly what you were talking about, Councillor, in terms of those jobs being in those areas where we're going to see those housing growth as well. So there's more to come, obviously on this agenda, but I do think we're well placed to grasp it really and make sure that we harness it for the benefits of Doncaster really.
Yeah, thank you for that, Alex. I think it's important just to be clear that planning itself sits and has its own framework, and often it's national policy which determines what we can do in local policy here. And I'm sure our planning officers are sympathetic, Councillor Cox, and empathetic when needs come up. But obviously we work within policy and framework, and they'll accommodate. And if developers aren't happy, there's always the appeals process, which they often people do exercise. Councillor Lube.
I have a question. Do we have a skill in play to access the higher payer position or highly skilled job, and what effort are we doing to remain talents within Doncaster, and so they don't have to leave Doncaster for better jobs?
Thank you, Councillor. And this is an area that's seeing a lot of focus from ourselves and our partners. I talked about the work of Advanced Doncaster previously around supporting people to upskill and change careers and access higher paid careers. That's obviously really important. Obviously, some of the assets that we have in the area that we've worked to develop over recent years. So obviously UTC's a very recent development for Doncaster University Technical College, just to the side of us here. There's also a second UTC in the wings as well, and that has a focus around a employer-led curriculum. So hearing from employers about what are the skills they need, what are the qualifications, and really training the next generation of talent to be able to kind of fill those roles, and very much kind of intertwine with the council's economic growth ambitions, the sectors that we want to see come forward: advanced manufacturing, digital and tech. There's going to be the UTC2 will have even more focus around engineering, also nuclear as well, which is obviously very timely given Holtec's interest, and also health and low carbon as well. So where we know there's going to be some real kind of growth, not just locally but also nationally, our skills education providers are very much kind of working with us on making sure that we have got the right skills developing in Doncaster. Obviously, from our point of view in terms of how we work with investors, we have pioneered what we call the academy model. So at the iPort, which is obviously a very visible sign of inward investment and development in recent years, when occupiers come on that site, we work with them to understand what their requirements are from a skills point of view, and then we work with the local community around the area to try and encourage local residents into those jobs. And again, on that upskilling, on that training point, if they don't have the skills, we work with them on developing the right skills for those jobs. We'll be doing the same at Unity, we'll be doing the same at Gateway East to make sure that those investments benefit local residents. And I think as well, we can't ignore the fact that we are around other big cities that will also always have a pull on our residents in terms of job opportunities. Leeds, Sheffield. We know that there's people that live in Doncaster that work in London as well. I mean, hopefully, they're bringing their income back to Doncaster, spending it locally. That's positive in itself. But what we want to do is make sure that people have options so they can maybe have a better work-life balance by working and living in Doncaster. So all the work we're doing around key sector growth and attracting inward investment, we're giving residents options so they don't have to work in Sheffield, don't have to work in Leeds. There's good quality jobs available locally. And we are seeing local employers. I mean, one that maybe you're familiar with is Automated Analytics, a digital tech company. They are a global leader in AI. They have probably about 30 people that work for them in Doncaster. They've only been going since 2013, but a lot of their workforce used to work in Leeds, Sheffield, in those roles, but they're Doncaster based, and they've been able to give local residents an alternative. And for those local residents, obviously they're closer to home, they've got more flexibility, and they can still earn a good wage as well. It's comparable with wages in Leeds and Sheffield. So we're trying to encourage more of that local growth as well. So that gives you a bit of a kind of summary of kind of the work that's happening in this space, really, but it's really important.
Thank you so much.
Councillor Beach.
Yes, thank you. How is progress made in artificial intelligence impacting employment and businesses in Doncaster? And can you give an overview of what it looks like now and for the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And that's a really interesting and good question, and kind of ties into what I was talking about regarding automated analytics in terms of what their specialism is. But I think the pictures for Doncaster are still emerging. I did look at some of the research that's been done globally around the impact of AI within industry, and we know that AI is replacing some jobs, particularly in industries that rely heavily on routine and repetitive tasks, but it's also creating new jobs. Analysis from the World Economic Forum suggests that by 2025, AI would have displaced 75 million jobs globally, but will have created 133 million jobs. So clearly there's opportunities through AI. I think for Doncaster, the biggest impact that often gets raised is around logistics and the logistics sector, given the nature of some of the roles. Locally, what we see is it's kind of either or. Some firms in logistics still have a high headcount. They don't have too much automation. Others go down the heavily automated route, but then they invest in more higher paid, higher skilled roles. I mean, I talked about TJM, Home Bargains, and their distribution centre at Unity. That will be a fully automated warehouse, but they will still be creating 1,000 jobs. So there's definitely levels here when we talk about AI and the impact of automation on companies. And we've also seen more manufacturers implement automation as well to improve efficiency, business productivity as well. But again, something else that's probably important for me to talk about is the work we are doing around digital and tech in Doncaster as well. We're going to be looking to build a brand new digital and tech hub by the train station. That will hopefully act as the focal point to grow our digital and tech sector. We want to have a key specialism around AI within that building, harnessing businesses like Automated Analytics who want to be a tenant within there. But there are other businesses that have specialisms around AI. So that is a growth area in itself. And we're also working with businesses locally to support them around understanding how they can harness AI, what it means for them, how it can improve what they do, how they deliver services. So hopefully, through some of the work that we're doing, businesses can see how it can be a force for good and maybe unlock jobs growth as opposed to replacing jobs. I think there's a lot of nervousness around replacing jobs, but what we're seeing is actually AI can actually help businesses do things more efficiently, be more productive, and actually unlock new jobs. And that's where a lot of the work's happening locally.
Oh, Chair, I believe that John's got a question as well.
No,
I'll
raise it later on, Stuart.
Right. It's regarding the building outside, obviously, where AI wants to go and live. I mean, that building was built, was it through Towns Fund or Levelling Towns Fund? Right. The criteria for building that building was to increase footfall within Doncaster. Yeah. Now, at what point did it become the AI hub and not what was first put forward as a how were it termed? It was termed as there was supposed to be no tenant. It were going to be people that want to come and work in Doncaster can rent a space, go away, come back, not a permanent residence for a company. At what point did that change within the process to become an AI hub? Because from what I could see with that application for that, it's not really going to increase footfall in Doncaster because people are going to come by train, there's no parking, they're going to come from railway station straight into a building. Everything is within that little area. It doesn't seem to be fitting the criteria where if you've got people that would walk through town, city, to a destination, they could potentially spend on the way. There's nothing there.
I can answer that question again, Councillor. I think the original plans for what we're calling Gateway 1 building was for it to be a Grade A office block. So to hopefully attract a international or national occupier, I think there's been a lot of work being done locally around how can we grow our digital and tech sector in Doncaster. I think we have got quite a strong sector, but it's very much hidden away, dispersed across the borough. And I think some of the research was showing that we were lacking that dedicated space, that focal point for the sector to kind of gather around and have a place that not only attracts kind of entrepreneurs, have people co-working, but also then smaller businesses that are looking to grow, and hopefully even established businesses that want to call Doncaster home and obviously be around that network of entrepreneurs and other like-minded businesses. So I guess probably about a year ago, the focus for that building changed. The kind of driving force for the building initially was obviously addressing the viability gap in the sense that we don't have enough high-quality offices in Doncaster. A lot of the offices are at Lakeside, and that's been to the detriment of the city centre. What I would say is there's no reason why the more established businesses that go into the new building, no reason why they can't pay high, good level rents ultimately. You know, digital businesses, tech businesses, they are good employers. They do pay high wages. They do make a lot of money. So there's no reason why we can't achieve our previous purpose around increasing the rent values in Doncaster and addressing that viability gap. And obviously, I think from a private sector point of view, if they see that building full of businesses, full of entrepreneurs, then and there's more demand for that, they'll be building more spaces like you see in other big cities. We haven't been there historically. So hopefully that, and I guess as well, I mean, again, people working at a building, they should be spending money in our high streets. I mean, what we want to do is encourage vibrancy, and for tech and digital businesses, it's all about the connections between people ultimately. And you like to think that they'll be using the coffee shops, they'll be entertaining clients after work. Hopefully there'll be more events happening in the city centre where they don't happen at the moment, whether it'll be in that building or be in other venues. Maybe they'll go for a drink after events. So there's no reason why any of that activity that might happen in that building can't have a knock-on positive impact for the city centre, because right now we're not having that impact.
Councillor Mounsey, did you have a question that you wanted? Thank you, Councillor Mounsey. Thank you, Councillor Noon.
I've just got one on back at Iris as well. You mentioned about the own bargains and the 1,000 new jobs and the 300 have been fully automated and having 300 engineers. Have they calculated, I think you've sort of covered it already with your answer before, how many jobs would that take away? But I think you've said in the long term that's going to create more jobs with the new AI, is that right?
The research suggests that AI will create more jobs than it replaces. That's the kind of current economic research that's been done around the opportunities for AI. Home Bargains is a brand new investor to Doncaster, so the 1,000 jobs that they're bringing are 1,000 new jobs to Doncaster. They're not present, well, obviously they've got stores in Doncaster, but in terms of their kind of distribution centre, they haven't got a facility in Doncaster yet, but they will be building. Their facility will serve Yorkshire and the Humber from Doncaster.
And then I had one on...
Councillor Noon, I'm just going to bring in Councillor Beeching and then I'm going to come back to you. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yes, while we've just been discussing that, you said about people, it's becoming more automated in all the warehouses. Therefore, you'll get people who are at the moment running around picking parcels and putting them on belts and things. If that report is changed to being automated, those sort of people maybe haven't got the training to move up in the jobs market. You know, are we putting things in place for training for people that are, you know, we don't want to put a batch of people out of work while we're finding work for a different batch of people, so that you know, we don't want to. I don't want to see people are feeling very disenfranchised.
Can I answer that, Councillor? Our advanced programme, which is Living Strand 3 of UKSPF, is all about upskilling. So it's all about taking existing people within employment, within businesses, and upskilling them to the next level. We're already working with Home Bargains. We've been across to Home Bargains to look at where we can look at local people to get them upskilled into the positions that Home Bargains are going to put in place around the engineering and looking after the equipment. So we're already working on that agenda. We don't see that being a big issue because the advanced program is all about upskilling staff. And we're doing it with various other companies across Doncaster as well, making sure that some of the people on low level can achieve next level jobs.
I think as well, along with the support that we can provide, I think it's important for me to say that investing in automation is quite costly, and that's why you don't see everyone doing it. So there are some employers that are doing it, and therefore they are investing in the infrastructure that they need, and therefore that changes the kind of job dynamic. But there's other firms who obviously can't invest in it, and therefore they have got quite a high headcount because they need those people to be doing the kind of routine activities that kind of would happen in a normal warehouse. So when I said it's not, so automation isn't going to be everywhere. There's a cost to it, and it depends on whether that employer can actually implement that, and then also the knock-on impacts really. So there's always going to be jobs available. I guess it's the extent within that sector, and we'll see how the sector evolves over time ultimately.
I'd imagine as well then, so if you to mind turning your microphone off, thank you. Yeah, I'd imagine also then with automation as well and companies that are coming into Doncaster or other areas, it's a much longer investment because of the upfront cost. So it means job security for a longer period of time for people who have been employed. Would I be correct in making that assumption?
I think like anything, it depends on obviously business's profitability. Ultimately, there's no certainty in terms of in business, but obviously that investment is quite sizable. I mean, Home Bargains, the level of equipment that they've ordered for their new store, their new distribution centre at Unity, I think there's a 2-year lead-in time for all the kind of machinery and mechanics. So it shows you the level of sophistication that they're going to. So obviously they've costed all that up, and they know what kind of workforce they need for that. But obviously there's no guarantees within business in terms of the macroeconomic climate. And I know obviously we've been through the pandemic, we've been through various challenges recently, and we've seen one day a business is running really healthily, and next day they might hit a hurdle, and that could have quite a detrimental impact on the business.
Can I supplement that, Councillor Khan? Home Bargains, it's a £100 million investment in Doncaster. It's a significant amount that they're investing in automation in Doncaster with the long term. On the downside of that, Amazon did have an automated factory in Doncaster, which they took out. The simple reason that was supplying their pantry division, which didn't work. So it was economic conditions that took that out. It wasn't Amazon itself, it was economic conditions. Yes, it should work and it will work, and that's the future, but in some instances it hasn't worked, and it's proved it hasn't worked.
Yeah, the point I was trying to make is that for that amount of sizable investment, there needs to be, a long-term forecast and sustainability of jobs. And as Alex has correctly pointed out, we can't predict how businesses are going to do. But the projections that they do make, you envisage that it is long-term sustainability and long-term profitability. That's why they're making such a large investment. And with that then comes long-term job security. They both go hand in hand, don't they? Councillor Noon? You've got a few questions.
Yeah, I've got a couple. I just want to touch on the digital centre hub. And so we've seen loads of central government funding into the town's bit deals and levelling up funding and stuff, which in millions spent in our city centre. Is this seeing a growth in private investment in Doncaster Centre? Because it seems to be footfalls falling and there's more closed up shops.
I think from my point of view, it's definitely our challenge is that a lot of the government investment that we've been able to attract in the city centre, we've not then matched that by attracting private investment. So that is something that we need to be better at ultimately, and it's definitely our challenge. And it's you know, and not just our team, but across the council. How do we make sure that we leverage public sector investment that then brings private sector investment into the area? I mean, obviously, hopefully, with the Digital Tech Hub, there'll be more firms coming to Doncaster that will stimulate the market. There's obviously exciting plans being developed for the waterfront area, working with a private developer and investor. Obviously, there's discussions around the Waterdale area as well. So there are opportunities that we're trying to harness. One of the positives is obviously that we are a major landowner in the city centre, so we can obviously try and influence much more effectively and get the right kind of development, the right kind of investment. And obviously the fact that we have recently become a city means that there's more focus on Doncaster, more awareness, more people looking at the opportunities here, which hopefully is for the better as well. But I guess on a micro level, some of the work of Business Doncaster is making sure that we are filling some of the empty units that are on the high street, bringing new offers in. In terms of quality of place, that's a very important part of our selling point. It's not just about coming and investing here. It's about having a place to bring your family, do things on the weekend. It's that quality of life offer that's really important. And I do think we have got a good offer, but we're very keen to grow that as well. And it's not just about the city centre, it's also about areas on the periphery as well. Some of the attractions that are on the periphery, the country estates, that diversity of offer is really important as well. So yes, the city centre is very important, and we need to make sure that we have a thriving city centre, but we shouldn't forget about the other assets that we have in Doncaster as well, and make sure that other areas are able to benefit too.
What impact have you seen? Have you seen a rise in companies wanted to take up premises within the city centre due to pedestrianisation, or have you seen it fall? Because what the stuff that we're hearing from people that want to be in the city centre is they find it tricky because they can't get to the premises that they would want to be for deliveries, etc. They've found that a lot of it is hampered with buses now to get people from one place to another place. Conversations that I'd had with First Bus, they've obviously moved. They don't go down Duke Street anymore. That initially caused them some time wastage. So they had to change and obviously go from the hub site, from French Gate. That is, in their opinion, in First Bus's opinion, it's creating a blockage on footfall within the town centre, city centre, sorry. And therefore people aren't going to the shop units that could be occupied because people just can't get there. So what's your opinion on that? And then just secondly, sorry, when you mentioned waterfront, the exciting things that are coming there, it's government money. I think it's 6 point something million that's gone on to there. I believe that when that application for that funding went in, it was to re-landscape that and make the ground nice. But then the further things to go is to put sheds on there, isn't it? To put big units. No. What is it? What is the ultimate goal for the waterfront site? Is it to stop as green?
No, so the funding that we've got for the waterfront was to remediate the site, so essentially make it ready for development, or essentially, so there were quite a few issues that were kind of affecting the viability of bringing that site forward. So the work that's going to be happening is obviously remediating it, making it basically ready for a developer to come on site and start to develop. The plans that are in store for the waterfront, we have worked with an investor and a developer who are looking to bring a digital media campus to the area that was centred around the digital arena, so really using kind of next level technology as an offer there. And we're looking at how we can maximise that asset. So there's all sorts of different kind of opportunities, from kind of leisure, from experiential, to actually looking at kind of innovation within health and other kind of sectors as well. That developer is also looking at associated workspaces. There's still ideas around the film studio, which I know has been raised its head before. Hotels, accommodation as well, in terms of kind of housing. So a real mixed-use development. I think the aspiration previously was always a mixed-use offer on the waterfront, although I know we've been through conversation around the new hospital and obviously the film studio, but this developer has got 12 months to work up their plans, and they're working with council colleagues on developing those. So they are exciting. I mean, obviously we want to see them come to fruition, but I think we are in quite a strong position, and hopefully they can materialise. I don't know, Lorna, if you want to say about the pedestrianisation.
Sure. I think as well it's coming from the different perspectives as well. There is access at the moment at certain times of the day for vehicles to deliver to those stores. But equally, I think from a consumer perspective, it is considered that pedestrianisation creates a safe and vibrant environment for events and leisure activities to take place. So there's probably a little bit of conflict there as well from what the businesses want, which is ultimate convenience and everything to be outside of their door each and every time, versus the greater good of what creating that environment could actually lead to. And I think just to pick up on the footfall itself, so we reported in September that there's been over 10 million visitors to the city centre during this calendar year, which is obviously a huge number. And so when Alex and the team are working with retailers and investors, we are able to convey the strength of the footfall. And an extension to that is that we've now got the ability to track what the actual sales are. So we've invested in a system that is able to give us the breakdown as to whether people are spending money on fashion, food and drink, grocery items, tourism and health and beauty. So that combined with the footfall, combined with the marketing that we're doing, we've actually got a better picture of what's working and where it's going to be more advantageous for businesses to be located.
Thank you. Where can we see this data for where it's showing about where the footfall's going? Because some of the data that I've looked at and seen for Round Marketplace, and I've been told that it's only monitored through one camera that I think is outside Castle. And just quickly, sorry, the waterfront stuff, I believe that the on the original thing that was signed by Cabinet, we've got Cabinet member there, that it mentions, and I've taken this up with financial people within council, that if when the funding was drawn down and it was used to obviously clean that area, make it look pretty so it's saleable so people can get in there, within, I think there's one paragraph that's in there that says if it isn't used for the original meaning of the thing, so that it will put forward to be re-landscape, made it look nice to move forward, then that funding has to go back. I've taken the issue up with Debbie, but as that's already been signed by Cabinet, how on earth are we going to say, right, that funding's not going to go back? We haven't done what was originally suggested within that, but it's fine. How does that work?
I don't think we can answer that, Steve. It's not within our area of control. That's something you need to take up people far to senior to us. But to go back on your question on footfall, we have a number of footfall cameras dotted around the city centre. There's not just one in Cast. There's two on the High Street, there's one on Sensep, there's one in the Market Square, and there's one up here. They're all across the city, and we do record footfall on that. We know we've got a difficulty in the city centre with buildings, because we know we've got two big voids, the House of Fraser building, although we do have interest in the bottom floor now of that building, and we are meeting the owners next week. But we know Marks and Spencers are coming out in 12 months' time, which is going to create a big void. We've also, within the city centre, Doncaster city centre was built on 70s retail. Some of the buildings have not been updated since, and they're not right for modern retail. Now we know Sports Direct have just bought the French Gate, and they're going to put their brands in. They'll revolutionise the French Gate. We're hoping that's going to have a knock-on effect and bring people out of the French Gate into the city centre so we can fill up some of the voids. We can only see that as a positive, but we do have some big issues coming up around void properties in the city centre. And just one example, the banks are already starting to go online. If the banks go, that's a massive issue. So there is a city centre master plan being looked at now, which will be into consultation. But we seriously need to look at city centre buildings and future uses.
Just around pedestrianisation, Lorna, in particular, my view on this is a local authority, we set the vision, we set a strategy, and then it takes a cultural shift. So it's maybe generational as well, isn't it? That it'll take time before that becomes normal. If we look at the likes of Manchester and Leeds and other city centres, that change, it doesn't happen overnight, does it? And but I was speaking to somebody about Buckinghamshire as well, and some of the work that they've done there, and how it's took maybe 25 years to see fruition of what they implemented. It's now at a point where it seems to be normal, and that's what we should be aiming towards. So do you want to pass comment on that? And also around, Councillor Cox makes a very valid point around funding around the waterfront, and my understanding was a lot of the funding that we did apply for was very tightly controlled, and we were asked to bid into certain pots, so the spend on that was limited on what we could spend on, wasn't it? So that might be the restrictions that we're talking about here, that it's limited on what it is.
I think culture is absolutely right, and we've seen that culture shift. We've gone from vibrant city and town centres to convenience retail, out of town retail parks being what people want, and that's exactly parking your vehicle outside and running in and running back out again. So I think in terms of commitment, we need to set that vision if that's the direction of travel that we embark upon. Obviously, we've got mixed areas within the city centre, so obviously out here there's only the bus and taxi route, Market Square being pedestrianised already, but I find Priory Place one that is most kind of awkward sometimes, or coming across High Street, so I think that is a natural point where you might look to make that. But again, it's the conflict between where businesses want those drop-offs and access and disabled parking, and so it's really complex, isn't it? There isn't a straightforward answer. It would need to be looked at as part of the wider master planning, I think, as to the direction of travel. But I know for sure other city centres have found it popular and it's worked for them. So I think alongside the other car parking feasibility and everything else about the mix, what is the city centre offer? We know it's not just based on retail anymore. It needs to have that element of leisure and to give people more reasons to come, more reasons to spend longer time and increase the dwell. And the reason for coming. So I think the intelligence allows us to be able to plot that a little bit more. Now we've got that ability to understand how much they're spending. We can and what they're spending the money on. At least that gives us that ability to be able to help forecast for the future as well.
Councillor Noon.
Thank you. On I think it's page 30 on the paperwork. There's a graph that shows gross weekly pay of full-time Doncaster workers overall by sex. This shows differences of gross weekly pay between men and women in full-time employment. Can you explain why these are still why there's still differences? Is this comparable across different types of working and shift patterns and industries? And what is being done to address the differences in gender pay?
Thank you, Councillor. I think, I mean, there's still issues in terms of, I guess, a limited female presence in certain industries. I think logistics, manufacturing, digital and tech are kind of a few ones that I'd probably pick out that still has a limited kind of female presence. I think there is an issue around kind of societal norms where, unfortunately, that impacts on progression routes for females. Obviously, where females have had to pause employment for kind of childbearing or kind of caring responsibilities, they have found their progression routes stunted. And that's something obviously we have to work very hard against ultimately. And obviously the work that I've talked about with Advance around working with those who want to progress in careers, looking at their kind of skill sets, looking at their transferable skills, accessing training to upskill, those are very important kind of areas of support that can help females to progress in the labour market. Equally, the representation of females in senior positions, we know that's an issue nationally in the boardroom. And again, if you don't have your leaders representing that diversity, then it's very difficult to change what that diversity looks like kind of low down the organisation as well. But some of the positive things that we're doing as well as the support, I mean, obviously promoting the range of jobs and careers that are available locally, and also those female role models, so where people can see aspirational figures that they can look up to, that can hear about their journey, so they feel that there's representation there, that they can kind of aspire to achieve those things. Obviously, there's been a big focus around women in STEM, which is really important as well, to make sure that those male-dominated industries start to be more inclusive, and also the work we're doing around schools engagement as well. So making sure that there's more kind of employer touch points within schools. So again, females will be able to have a wider range or wider view of the different types of careers that are available and understand how they can access that as well. So there's quite a lot of work happening in this area, but there is an issue and it's a national issue. And to be fair, it's probably, I'd probably say it's also a global issue as well, but we are trying to kind of tackle some of that in Doncaster.
Thank you. Just touching on that, I work in fire service. We have a lot of like positive action days for female firefighters. Is that something that we can look at as a council?
Absolutely. I think the more we can do to kind of showcase the diverse range of employment opportunities that are available, the better. And equally working with employers to better understand the skills that they're looking for and make sure that jobs can they can recruit from as wide a cohort as possible. So are there things they can do to make their jobs more flexible, for instance, that will then open them up to more of the kind of workforce? There's various things that we can look at working with employers to make sure that they are able to maximise the labour market, because ultimately for employers it's about maximising the labour market. Why as an employer, why would you shut yourself off to 50% of the workforce, for instance? You know, if you didn't need to ultimately.
Thank you.
Councillor, just to add to that, there is a successful Women in Rail group already formed in Doncaster, and the Doncaster Chamber of Commerce are working on that agenda with a number of female groups that is going to bring them together to look at opportunities for women in employment in Doncaster.
Is that the rail, did you say? Yeah, and we've got the new hub opening or reopening in the old National College, is that right? That's all good. Just touching on page 28 on the graph, it shows the percentage of working age population claimants in Doncaster by age band. Looking at unemployment rates for age brackets, I can see the 16 to 24 age bracket unemployment is climbing. What are we doing to help secure employment for younger generation in Doncaster, and how do these figures compare against the national average?
Sandra's not with us because it's her area of work, but there's an anomaly there because also 16 to 24, the numbers in employment is going up as well. So it's something we need to look deep into the figures. But we are delivering 2 youth hub contracts, working with the Department for Work and Pensions to deliver 16 to 24 years back into employment. So that's looking at a lot of them are coming out of school and not being employment ready. So we're working on CV writing, working on helping them to find the right jobs. And we've got dedicated provision out in Mexborough in Doncaster, which covers the rest of the borough. And we are looking at provision out in the north of the borough in Thorn. But they are it's a DWP area work, but we're delivering contracts, youth hub contracts to get youth employment back, youth back being prepared to go into work. And there's quite a lot of work going into that agenda.
So since a lot of schools have sort of moved into like the academy framework, are we still having them connections with school if we're seeing more kids not leaving school and not being available or ready for employment? Have we lost that connection with the schools?
We have, and we're getting it back. I mean, the Chamber took up quite a lot of education to employment. They're still on the work in that agenda, but our youth hub team are working in schools across the borough and working with the Mexborough teams based out of Mexborough Library. We're going to schools and talk to schools about the opportunities for youth and employment and get youth back into work and make them aware of all the opportunities that are, not just for into employment, but for training in Doncaster.
I'm just going to bring Councillor Beach in.
Yes, on from what Councillor Noon said, you said the business of teaching people how to write their CVs, which has come a long, long way since I first went to work, when you got asked all sorts of personal questions. But you said taking it to Thorn. Now, I represent Asken, Norton Asken ward. There is no way we can get young people who probably don't have any transport to Thorn. This facility needs to be on a movable base, basically, so that you can... I mean, there's a perfectly good building in Asken at the library upstairs. So we need it to be able to come to places like Asken, where, as I say, there's a lot of young people, and there's, of course, there's the Camps Mount Academy there, but they can't get to Thorn. In fact,
Sorry, Councillor, we're based in Thorn, but our youth supervisors do go across the borough, so they are active in Asken. So we do go out to Asken. We have been in Asken Library. We are active in all the boroughs and all the wards. Just that the DWP contract for Mexborough is for the city centre of Thorn, but the youth advisors in that area will cover all the north of Doncaster. They won't just be sitting in Thorn jobs and expecting people to go to them. We will go out into the communities.
thank you, that's good news, because we often do get ignored. We are a bit disjointed from the city. Thank you.
Councillor Noon.
It shows on one of the graphs on 28 as well about older generation staying in employment longer, so over 50 staying in employment longer. Does this present a challenge for the younger workforce moving forward? How people working past retirement age or longer, and how do we see this affecting our younger generation?
So I don't see it as a challenge, Councillor. I think retirement age has increased, but I think we are actually seeing more people leave the labour market early and retiring early. We have seen that as a trend post-COVID, and those people therefore becoming economically inactive. And there's a lot of discussion at the moment around those economically inactive people and how do we get them back into the labour market. I think the key focus for us, or what anyone should be doing, is how do we ensure that skills are being retained and being passed on to the young generation. So if there are people that want to retire early, how do we harness them? How do we perhaps say, well, rather than actually retiring, what about you working 1 or 2 days a week, working with a young person, passing on your skills and knowledge? Because we know there's a lot of industries, and especially in Doncaster, manufacturing, rail, two that I'd probably just want to kind of pinpoint, where we have got quite an aging workforce. And obviously thinking about the future of those sectors, if we're not passing on the skills and knowledge and expertise, then we are presenting kind of future problems. So for me, it's not that an ageing workforce stunts young people. It's more about how can we make sure those skills are passed on to younger people, and we're keeping those skills revolving ultimately. So I'd probably suggest a bit of a rephrasing there to kind of the problem and the kind of solution perhaps.
Thank you. Again on page 28, percentage of working age population claimants in Doncaster by age band. This graph shows that from 2020, all age groups continued to remain above pre-COVID levels. Could you clarify whether this is a national issue and what is being done to bring this down for all age brackets?
I think, Councillor, looking at the data, I think nationally it does show also a kind of increase in claimants post-COVID, although it's kind of more of a gradual increase, whilst I think for Doncaster you're seeing quite a few spikes. But if you look at the Doncaster data, I think pre-COVID we did have quite a high unemployment level, and obviously looking at post-COVID data, it seems to be quite reduced. So whilst obviously there's still work to be done, the situation's improved in Doncaster. And then I guess in terms of what we are doing, again, it's servicing all the things that we've talked about around our skills and employment work, and that is having an impact on the ground to those people that aren't in employment or have been made redundant recently, and helping them to find new job opportunities. And there are many job opportunities being created locally, so it's about matching people up with the right opportunities, and that's the work of the advanced team. That's the work around understanding sectors, the roles, people's transferable skills, and just opening up their eyes to new opportunities. Because like I said before, if people only know certain types of industries or have only been in a certain type of role for a long period of time, they aren't aware of the wide range of opportunities, and they need a bit of guidance and a bit of support. And also, how do we reduce people's barriers to work as well? And that's a key focus of our work here in Doncaster as well. So it's reducing those barriers so they can then access work, whether that be through volunteering as a first step, or the small steps to get them closer to be able to take up employment. So there's a lot of work happening here in Doncaster on this.
I think you've already touched on it earlier on. Just like touch on both inward investment and then private sector investment. How are we doing compared to this time last year? And you've touched on this. What have we got in the pipeline for any future schemes that will support further investment?
Thank you, Councillor. So obviously I mentioned those longer term investments like TJM, hybrid air vehicles, Holtec, and obviously the fact that with regards to our property stock and some of the developments that are happening we are in a very strong position. We do also have incentives at our disposal so we can use them to attract inward investors to the area. Those incentives encourage them to take up new employment spaces, also incentivises them to support local job creation. So we do give out grants to new inward investors who create jobs and fill them with local residents as well. So there's an incentive there. More recently, we've worked collectively with our South Yorkshire local authorities to deliver a incentive called Tech Welcome, where we incentivise tech companies from outside of South Yorkshire to come and invest in South Yorkshire. And I'm pleased to say that we encouraged a number of businesses into Doncaster from the tech sector, creating jobs locally. I think, off the top of my head, probably about 6-7 businesses that used the grant for Doncaster. And I think job creation was probably about 31 new jobs being created in tech for Doncaster. And again, for me, that's very positive because we don't have the dedicated spaces that we talked about previously. So the fact that we were able to attract so many tech businesses without having some of those assets is a real success, really. And I guess looking ahead to the Digital Tech Hub, it kind of shows what's possible with the right facilities. I guess the final thing for me to say is it's important that I probably highlight that inward investment sometimes does take quite a long amount of time. You're working with, you do a site selection process. An inward investor might be looking at sites across the country. How do you narrow that down to Doncaster? So there's a lot of time spent in terms of articulating the opportunities, articulating why Doncaster is the right place, and building that relationship, really. And obviously, we reference the economic climate at the moment as well, which is challenging, and therefore that does also mean that investors are taking more time to make those decisions. So one live example is a company called Norac, who a French baking company. They're looking to manufacture pastries and products in the UK. We are talking to them about them investing at Unity. We've been talking to them now for probably about 14 months. They'll be visiting Unity this month, but they still haven't committed to investing in Doncaster yet. So it gives you a sense of kind of how long-term some of our conversations are. Talked about hybrid air vehicles previously. We've been talking to them for over a decade. So sometimes these things do take time, but hopefully there's enough in the pipeline to see things happen now, short-term, medium-term, and also long-term as well.
To answer your question about numbers, Councillor Null, for the first 6 months of this year, our pure inward investment number is above what it was this time last year and the year before. So we are on target for another good year. The last 2 years, we've had a lot of property development, which has put the numbers up, but we are on target again for this year.
Thank you. Just a little one on the property stock that you said. What are the plans for the property stock? We've seen poor building and finishing in terms of homes from private companies and stuff like that. Is that something that we'll be looking to bring internally into the council work frame, using upskilling, apprenticeships, stuff like that, or would it stay external for building works and stuff like that?
I don't think it's something that the guys here can really comment on.
We're not involved in any residential work. It's all commercial work we're involved in.
I'm just going to bring in Councillor Liu.
Hey, I have a question. On the page 21, they said employee rate, consider last one on the previous one is increase. On the page 25, unemployment rate, it was last one unemployment rate is go up and the previous is lower. So if employment rate go up, unemployment rate should be go down. Why go up? Thank you.
I think there are some anomalies that we are very keen to understand in terms of the data. I think there's also, as well as the unemployment and the employment, there's also the subject of those people that are also economically inactive as well, that play a key role as well. But yeah, we do want to try and make more sense of some of the kind of headline macro data. I mean, obviously these are figures that we get from the ONS that we interpret and try and decipher. But obviously they help to inform some of our activity on the ground. But aside from that, Council, I can't I can't kind of provide any further comment really in terms of the data that we've gleaned from national sources.
Okay, thank you. Just look at, for me, it's a little bit weird. If employment go up, unemployment should be go down. So,
We'll investigate it, Councillor, and we'll send you a supplementary response.
okay, thank you.
Councillor Beach.
Thank you. I was led to believe a while ago that in Doncaster we have too much retail to compare, premises compared with sort of office space and that sort of thing in the city area. Is it still that way? But is the fact that one or two of the bigger buildings are being, or one has been converted, I think, into apartments, does that sort of make the balance better? Because you're losing the employment space, but you're also bringing people into the town to increase the footfall.
We've never had a real strong city centre office offer, which is why when we're building the new tech building, that was part of creating a better office offer in the city centre. We've not really got any grade 1 office space in the city centre. Back in the 80s, 90s, we moved all our office stock down to Lakeside. So our Lakeside is our office hub, if you like. Yes, we have seen residential conversions, with a lot of residential conversions, so we've got a lot more people living in the city centre. What we have as a challenge is to find accommodation and find office space to build. The private sector will not come in to build because they don't get the yields for the city centre because there's no office space. We need to find a way of bringing office space back into the city centre. I know the developer looking at Waterfront is looking at office space, so we need to bring office space back into the city centre. Also, it's not easy to convert existing retail to office. I'll take an example, the Marks and Spencer's building. That will be fine, but there's no internal light to it. So you can't really convert that very easily into office space. You can't even convert it easily into residential space. So we do have difficulties with some of the product stock we've got in the city centre that does need to be addressed.
Councillor Cox.
Thank you. It's just regarding incentive to be paying benefits to new starters within business, for example, sick pay, etc., from day one. What are the businesses saying to you? What are their thoughts about this? Do you think it's going to restrict people taking people on, or do you think it's going to encourage it?
I think it's too early to say, Councillor Cox. This is just a new initiative that's coming out. It is too early to say. We've not really had that'll probably come out in the next quarterly survey the chairman do around that agenda, but it's probably too early to say. No businesses have really come back on to us and say it's an issue at the moment. I think it possibly will be, but I think it's only just been announced as a government as a government decision. So we'll just wait and see on that one for the time being.
Councillor Liu.
Hello, I want to know what's the action are we taking to mitigate a potential recession or downturn in Doncaster? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I guess from my side, I think it's important that we kind of highlight that Doncaster, we're not immune here to kind of macroeconomic events, and we've seen that recently with the pandemic and supply chain issues and high inflation, that, you know, these things that are happening nationally, internationally, do also affect us here in Doncaster. I think the key thing for us is to ensure that we do have quite a diverse sector mix and that we're not reliant on any one sector. That's really important. But also how we support our local businesses also be resilient as well, so they can try and ride those shocks. They're prepared for the future, depending on how things go. So I think we saw during COVID the importance of being resilient, being able to diversify, be able to kind of be agile. And we are working with businesses around their resilience, as well as looking at kind of their kind of income streams. How can they diversify their income? How do they make sure they're not kind of hedging their bets on kind of one client, for instance, and how to spread their kind of activity, maybe look at a range of sectors. All that, I think, helps them to become more resilient ultimately. And so a lot of our support work is around business resilience.
Thank you for the explanation and then the rule for prevent. Thank you.
Councillor Mounty, did you say you wanted to ask a question?
It's a bit of a vision statement, Chair, so bear with me. I'll let you people speak. The questions being asked this morning are relevant, very up to mark, and at least it shows we have the will and the knowledge that won't ask questions of our officers, who we respect greatly. I'll start with saying we do respect you people, right? What I'd like to start with is the fact that on page 8 of this report, it says Doncaster economic profile. Doncaster's economy is the second largest in South Yorkshire and has seen steady growth over the last 2 decades. Tick. Employment in Doncaster is high and compares favourably against sub-regional competitors. Tick. Right? So it comes to the part where, at page 8 as well, it says that our main work covers the following activities. The whole list there of bullet points, right? These, in my opinion, are the major keys, right, to push to create new long-term investments in our city, right? They are, right? Again, on inward investment, it is a priority. That's the question. How could we achieve this? The first thing is I don't know if you realise, but I'll say quite bluntly to you, there is a whole vast potential in the city of Doncaster area, based in all ages across this fantastic city that we have. Please remember that, because we can use this talent, we can use this potential and drive things forward on that, and especially when you're trying to get new investors to come into this city of ours. The key areas to attract new investment, if you look at page 10 of this report, it highlights there on sector growth, paragraph 13. Key sectors of focus, and these have been mentioned by my colleagues here today and you as well, our officers. Advanced manufacturing, engineering, creative, digital, tech, low-carb. It goes on and on and on there, right? That's what there, and I just wonder where Dan Fell and the Chair of Commerce coming on this, and if you have discussions with them or not. But if we don't, I think you will do, but it's time to push there. We, remember, have the potential here. Never been tapped yet, right? Further on, it would be well advised to present our new investors to bring about a new investment city of Doncaster that by creating now a consultation with prospective and expanding in industries already in our city, and to provide, as I said on page 8 of this report, it provides the education system. So when it comes, this is the talent, and I hope you agree with me, and I'll say best I can. We have a whole host of youngsters in our schools, junior, right through to the academies, right? Their potential is left untapped. When are we going to get into these proposed or prospective industries or business employers that we can attract by putting out there the fact that the talent is here, but we need to hear from these employers, this is vital, this. What skills do they need in the short term, medium and long term? And that then goes into the curriculum of the school as well. That's where you've got to pick your people up there. And if we can get that done and achieve that, you will then not just lift the aspirations of the students, but you lift the aspirations of the whole of the city of the borough, right? So please get the investors, wherever they are, sit and talk and say, this is what we can do. It's not rocket science to me, it's what I've been banging the drum for years. And the forward-looking city, a long-term investment, it brings in higher employment rates, which also has a knock-on effect on the local income as well. It also has a good effect on the GDP of this borough, right? And that then creates a system which improves the livelihood and the lifestyles of all our people in this city, right? But this is all linked to this business, people. So show 'em what we've got here. It must start now, like you say, because if you want to get things done, it takes 25, no, can't take 25 years, can't wait. We have the potential, we've got the system in place here, but we need to go into these schools, definitely. And if we could achieve this, then the overall GDP will rise, I put here, and bring about much needed growth in our local economy and more spending power to our public and our communities. That's my vision. I hope it makes sense to you. But please, really carefully, and I'll tell you what, we, again, I've said the potential is here. You people, as well as councillors here today, have that. It's our duty, along with you good people, to make sure that with the business we bring in here, because it's doing the right way, well, don't tick, do the right way. But we need to get a hold of this early now and be the first in there, because we can be as big as Leeds or Sheffield. We have the talent, it's there, it's untapped. So we need to get the business in there and tell us what skills they require in the future and get that into our curriculum straight away. Thank you, Chair.
Can I come back on that, Councillor Mousey? Because you're right, you've hit the nail on the head, and that's why when everyday vehicles have come to Doncaster, they've come to Doncaster based on our future talent pool and the fact they're working closely with the UTC, and they're on the board of the UTC, and they're on the board of other schools. They've already recognised that, and they are working with our schools to make sure they want 500 jobs, not just for now, but for long term in the future. There'll be 2,000 jobs. They want to make sure that they are working with our local talent to get those jobs. So what you're saying is exactly correct, and we started that. Hybrid aerials is a perfect example of what we're trying to do around that agenda.
So I hope you agree with me, all your colleagues. The way forward is this. You must get into these schools starting now early and get the business people what they want and get them out there in school. They're within that group of people, students from junior school right through to academy. The talent is there. Don't waste it. You've got one chance out here. Don't waste it. Go for it, because you will achieve fantastic efforts there. It lifts the aspirations of the students. It lifts the aspirations of the community. Everything you've got to do in there. It's what we need to lift this town out of the things that have been gone in the past. I'll just say this in closing, Chair, if you let me bear with me. On Carcroft Common, Steve mentioned before there, when I came down to work in Bosworth Colliery in 1970, right, there's a big sign on Bentley Moor Lane. They said on there, Carcroft Common, the industrial diamond of the north, 3,500 brownfield acres, and it's our land. The only thing we've got so far is the airship people. You said it earlier, we need to get that opened up as well. But look at the potential just by opening that there, to businesses, employment situations. People from Askin, Bentley, Skeller, Carcroft, Adwick, Highfield, and surrounding areas could walk and get the bus there. It's untapped. We're sitting on a gold mine here as regards to employment, sustainability, and lift the aspirations of the people that we serve. Thank you, Chair.
I just wanted to add as well, the advanced team also organise recruitment exhibitions. So employers, the recent event was at the racecourse, and that allows prospective employees to go and visit those employers to see what recruitment opportunities that they have, which is a really proactive approach. But to the audience that you're talking about, specifically the younger people, Doncaster Chamber organise an event called Opportunities Live. The next event is on the 6th of March next year, and that is dedicated to school-age learners. So likewise, they can attend that event. Schools organise their attendance, and businesses exhibit and again share and showcase what employment opportunities that they have. So certainly something to build on, and those connections are already there as well.
We also, through South Yorkshire Careers Hub, we've got a couple of officers that are based at the council that their job is to connect employers with schools, and they're working with ourselves around increasing the breadth and range of employers that are linked in with schools. And there's all sorts of different offers that employers can kind of give to schools, whether it's just mentorship, it's kind of an hour talk, for to something a bit more extensive as well. So there is a lot of work happening, councillor, but like you say, there's always more that can be done, and it's about trying to reach as many young people as possible, but also trying to encourage as many employees as possible to work with schools and work with young people to harness their potential ultimately.
Councillor Mounty, your microphone's off.
The potential is here. I thought I didn't hear one. The potential is here. Please, please, don't waste it. Go for it.
Thank you, Councillor Mounty. If there's no further questions, can panel members note the information provided today? Oh, sorry, Councillor Noon, you've got another question.
I just want to touch on what Councillor Mouse has just said. All the work that's gone into the hybrid aircraft around the Carcroft site, that is absolutely massive investment for Doncaster North. And it's took you all this time. And you said earlier on, all the private investment has been in the south of the borough. So Doncaster North has been left behind massively. So we're still recovering from the mining era. So you've got loads of mining villages left. He's just said we're sat on a diamond. Is it going to take our internal investment to then get the external private companies to come and build this area up? Because we've got a chance to do it, and I know it's taking a long time, and we've started, the ball's rolling, but we need to keep on with that. Because Doncaster North, we get more houses, we get no investment. It's there, it is there, but it's not getting used. It's not been used for the last 40 years from mines. So since mines closed, it's not been used. All them villages have been forgot about. And I represent them, John represents them. Doncaster South's had the investment, and that's where the area is. But we own land in Doncaster North, and the ball's rolling, but we need to further invest into that. Because like John said, the talent pool's there. It needs us to start the ball rolling and be a lead in the investment. Capital, your town funds, all that bid, that's been excellent for Thorn, the Thorn investment area. That's excellent. We need that for Doncaster North as well.
Thank you, Councillor. I think it's safe to say, like colleagues have pointed out earlier, a lot of this is private sector led, isn't it, and where private companies want to invest, but often you need that anchor. So the investment that's going in now hopefully will lead to more. And I'll bring Chris or Alex or Lorna in to add comment.
Just on that, hybrid air vehicles, yes, you're right, it's a massive investment in the north of Doncaster, but it's not just hybrid building airships, there's a massive supply chain comes along with hybrid. A multi-million pound supply chain, a multi-million number of jobs. It's up to the north of Doncaster to capitalise on that and make sure those jobs, those companies stay as close to hybrid as possible, and we provide the land and we provide the infrastructure for that to happen. Otherwise they will go to the south of the borough, they will go to other areas of South Yorkshire. We need to get them as close to hybrid as possible.
We also know as well there's quite a few business parks in the north of Doncaster as well, which have quite a lot of businesses there that recruit from the local labour market and local area as well. So the business Doncaster team has been working with those businesses, again, supporting their growth ambitions. Those businesses on those estates have grown, taking on more people, so that is positive. But I agree that you do also need some quite sizable kind of visible change on the ground as well to help raise aspirations and bring more kind of optimism. And again, I guess we also talked about the local plan previously, and the local plan is the framework that starts to kind of allocate sites and what uses those sites will have. So obviously there's a lot of discussion right now around the government's targets and how can we help achieve that. So I'm sure there'll be further dialogue around the local plan and planning and sites. And we know there's already been developers in the north of Doncaster that have approached us around grey belt and what does that mean, and does that mean previously green belt sites might now be open up for development. So there's a lot of dialogue around this at the moment. Obviously in terms of government's thinking, still in consultation, but there might be further opportunities to drive change through different land uses.
Final two questions from Councillor Beach and then Councillor Cox.
Yes, it's sort of not a question really, it's a comment. The thing that's held up Doncaster North has always been, and still is, the fact that the A19 is a dreadful road to get out of town, to round where the railway station is. But also, there is no link except going through Carcroft to get to the A1M. So among all this huge investment, we need, I know one company or one entity can't provide the finance for a whole new road right across, but we need, if it's even done piecemeal, a road constructed from the A19 somewhere by Bentley Moor Road, because I believe we've got land the other side, so we can get right across to the A1M, because that is a lot of the problem, and we get a great deal of complaints, and there's an action group and everything about the amount of traffic that goes along the B1220 to turn into the A1M. And that has been one of the biggest, I think, drawbacks of people not wanting to come to the north. So, you know, I think that needs to be factored in when you're looking at things. Thank you.
Your comment is noted, Councillor Beach. Councillor Cox.
Thank you. It's regarding consultation for building. The MPPF is out for consultation, isn't it? Do you, and I must say, Alex, thank you for all your comments and everything today. I think it's first time I've met you, but absolutely bang on, thank you. But it's regarding that. Have you put anything into the consultation for the MPPF? I believe, well, from what I've looked on the government sites, anybody can put the public can put a consultation in. A comment in. Is this being shared on comms through the council for people to put their comments in? I believe that the responses have been delayed due to the number of people that have already, because there was supposed to be a decision made quite quickly. So first question, have you made a comment in it? Next, can it be shared through comms with the council? Next one would be, do you perceive that the local plan is going to be scrapped or completely amended? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. So to kind of answer those questions in the order that you asked them, so I haven't personally put a comment in, but I know there's been a corporate response that's been sent from our planning team. In terms of whether that can be shared wider afield, I'd have to explore that internally. I don't know, Councillor Jones, whether you've got any knowledge around what's been shared through different mechanisms.
I think if you go through your line manager rather than Councillor Jones, you can then ascertain what can be disclosed and what can't be, if that's okay. And in relation to local plan, again, if you want to get clarification on what's going on with that and then respond in writing, that would probably be more appropriate. If that's all the questions, would you mind turning your microphone off, please, Alex? Panel members asked to note the reports and the information today. Is that noted?
Yes, it is.
I'd like to thank Lorna, Alex and Chris, and I'm quite saddened, actually, that it's the last time I'm going to be seeing Chris in these meetings. I don't know if you know, but Chris is retiring, so I want to publicly put on a note of thanks to Chris, a vote of thanks for all the work that he's done for the local authority, all the work he's done for businesses, the business sector, and how good a colleague and ambassador he's been for Doncaster, not just through the work that he does here, but often I've seen his on some of the forums on Facebook and elsewhere, always been a warrior sticking up and defending Doncaster. And Chris, I really mean this. I don't often, officers come and go all the time, as you know, but it's not often I say this, but you really will be missed, and you really are an asset to hear for everyone at Doncaster Council. So I'm sure everyone shares that view.
Chair, just say to Chris, I've met Chris on several times now. I know that ups and downs with Chris, but I'll tell you what, lad. As far as I'm concerned, you're an asset to this council. Thank you for doing it. Thank you, lad.
Thank you. And thank you for your kind comments. I can be even more of a warrior when I've finished with the council. Councillor Khan, we'll have to see. But yeah, thank you for your kind comments. Yes, I am retiring at the end of next month. It's been a long 21 years with the council. But yeah, it's time to go. I'll leave it to these young up-and-coming stars that are working for me at the moment.
And I think we're definitely in safe hands with Lorna and Alex and Chris. I've worked with your team since I first became a councillor. Honestly, you've been the most easiest and most understanding set of officers that I think that I've worked with when it comes to businesses and the demands and needs here of Doncaster, its population. So again, Chris, thank you very much for all the work that you've done. Agenda item 8, which is the overview and scrutiny work plan, the forward plan. You guys are free to leave now if you wish.
Thank you, Chair. And just very quickly, I would like to thank Chris myself. from our team as well, Chris. Thank you very much. Yes, panel. There's the forward plan of key decisions circulated with the agenda and also the scrutiny work plan. It's just there for members' attention and just for noting. Thank you, Chair.
Before it's noted, is there any comments on that anybody wants to pass? Noted? Yes. Come on, loud. Come on. Noted. Yes. Right. Thank you very much. That brings the meeting to an end.